Welcome to the Halftime Podcast, a 15-minute show where two panellists with opposing views must discuss why theirs is the best, and you get to decide the winner.
Hello and welcome. Yes, I'm Danny Cook, and welcome to another episode of the Halftime Podcast. Onto today's format, we have a slightly different format to some of the previous episodes. But I am very fortunate enough to be joined by Ese Agboaye, who will be sharing his views on whether big teams take the League Cup seriously. Now, by the time this episode comes out, it will be coming up to League Cup final weekend, which is brilliant because Ese's an Arsenal fan, so I'm sure he's got some fantastic views on that. So welcome, Ese.
Hi, Danny.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
Good man. So, obviously, before we dive into the main question, let's talk about that League Cup final. As an Arsenal fan, as a team that's actually in that final, are you looking forward to it?
Yes, I am, and especially since it's our first League Cup final since 2011. I'm going into that with good spirits. So.
Well, are you feeling quite confident? Do you think you can maybe win? Or is it too early to tell yet?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's too early because I remember in last season's FA Cup semi-final against Manchester City, we weren't in as underdogs, so we were going as underdogs for the final again.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if that plays into your hands. You never know. Two teams on the pitch. Man City obviously very good, but you made the good signings, and hopefully you'll see some success through Aubameyang and co. Anyway, on to the main topic of the podcast. So the big question I've got to ask you, and we'll sort of branch off from there. But Ese, do you think that big teams take the League Cup competition serious at all?
It varies really, especially if they have like a FA Cup replay in hand. Because, for instance, Arsenal haven't reached latter stages of the tournament for a while, and so I think if big teams don't take the League Cup seriously, then League Cup becomes like a third-rate trophy, let alone a second-rate trophy.
Yeah, and why is that? Why do you think that it becomes that sort of not the prized possession that maybe it once was back in going back a few decades ago? Is it through the emergence of the Champions League and the riches of the Premier League that it's sort of lost its way a bit?
Yeah, I mean, the FA Cup has become a bit like that as well, but that's of course a discussion for another time. But with the league, with the Premier League and the Champions League taking much more importance, teams will often disregard the League Cup that important to them anymore, which is quite sad.
Yeah, it sure is. I suppose the other thing is as well, you've got obviously these sides in the earlier rounds they're playing youngsters. Arsenal, I mean, when you played Norwich, you played some youngsters on the pitch. Do you think that sort of experience is good for, I suppose, the players and the club itself?
Yeah, I think using the League Cup to blood your youngsters, I think that's a positive. Because it's a bit like rugby's Anglo-Welsh Cup, where they use youngsters to have valuable experience. So using youngsters in this sort of competition, I think that's a good thing for experience, but also a bad thing for competition.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting as well because I suppose maybe a bit more research needs to be done, but it'd be interesting to see the difference between, say, a Chelsea and let's choose Man City and Arsenal, for example. It'd be interesting to see the difference between the the team they played in their very first round that they came into the competition at, compared to where they are now in the final. It'd be really interesting to see how that compares. But as a fan, if you've seen a young player or a fringe player perform well in the competition, would you want them to sort of keep their place in throughout that competition? Because I know some teams obviously have cup goalies. I think you guys do as well, actually. Ospina.
Yes.
Where when Penacek is obviously fit as well. But yeah, how do you think that's a viable thing?
Yeah, I'd like to see young players like fight to keep their place in the cup squad.
And do you think that do you think that they're helped out at all by the manager or by the managers, or is there so much like what I mean by that is, do clubs get to a certain point in the competition and all of a sudden the young players, the fringe players, go out the window and we've got to play our first team because there's a real chance of us winning?
For me, it's a bit of both, really. I mean, of course, you like to see young players play in the League Cup as much as possible, but if there's an already established player in the squad, then it's kind of difficult to say, "Oh, yes, you're in the squad."
Yeah, true. So, at what stage do you think that it assuming that you agree with me and you think that there is this sort of cut-off point that teams start taking it serious, at what stage do you think that these big teams do start taking it serious? As in playing senior players, sorry.
When you say which stage, do you like quarterfinals or semi-finals, or?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, the semi-finals, quarterfinals, round of 16, those sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think semi-finals and final is when big teams start to like take a look and say, "Hey, we've got a trouble from the line here."
I mean, obviously, it depends on the opposition you have as well. I would imagine. But okay, that's cool. So on the whole, then, I mean, looking aside, what could the League Cup do, or what could the EFL do to make the League Cup maybe a bit more sexier for the top sides to want to go and win? Is there anything they could do at all?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because they do offer a European place sides who haven't qualified through league position already. So I'm not sure what they could do.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard because obviously, like a Manchester United or a Man City, or say Arsenal, for example, any of those sides, more often than not, they're already in a qualification place anyway. So how do you motivate them other than, well, it's not a plastic trophy, but a trophy? It's not really, because financially it's not quite as strong, is it? It's not quite a strong competition compared to like a Champions League or an FA Cup.
I suppose you could say that the winner of the League Cup faces the winner of the French League Cup or something like that. I don't know.
Okay, that's a really cool idea. I like that idea. That could be interesting. One of the things that just popped into my head is they're given a European place, aren't they? They're given a European qualification, but I believe that's for the Europa League. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
and not for the Champions League. Now, obviously, it's very controversial, but how would you feel if one of those Champions League spots suddenly went to a League Cup winner?
Nah, No, that wouldn't sit well with me at all. I mean, I remember. I think the last side to qualify for European football through League Cup spot was Swansea City back in 2013. Swansea City, every team like Swansea City won the League Cup and then qualified for a Champions League. That would just look odd.
Okay. I mean, you've seen it. Another side that probably looked quite odd at the time was obviously Leicester. Leicester winning the Premier League, though. And obviously well earned their spot there. But, yeah, I think it'd be an interesting twist. Let's talk about money then. I did kind of mention there. Do you think that there could be any sort of change where they could offer maybe a couple... like a better prize fund for teams that win?
It'll be easy to. Again, that's another difficult one for me because league offer much.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're a manager now, because we've seen it in the past, we've seen this sort of selection headache that managers have to have this time of year. Maybe not so much in the final, but semi-final and quarter-final, that sort of stage, when you kind of feel that teams are taking it that little bit more serious. Now they have to make a selection, and they have to weigh up whether these senior players can come in, and sometimes they have to they have to prioritise on a League Cup rather than 3 points at the weekend of playing a weaker side in the league. Now, for a top sort of 8, top 10 side, is that sort of excusable to you as a fan if you lose? I don't know, you lose one fixture. Say Arsene Wenger turns around and say you had a game prior. Well, you've got a game obviously prior to the League Cup final. Say he rested all your key players, you rested your whole squad, and you lost the game. How would you feel as a fan?
It's based on whether it's based on position really. Like if we're like say like 7-10 points clear in the league, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, maybe we could take the one loss. Maybe we could take the one loss. But if you're like just a couple of points ahead, I'd be like, we need to take the cup match seriously, and then the league match seriously as well.
And as a fan, you've obviously experienced the highs and lows over the last few seasons, and you've seen Arsenal win a lot of cup competitions. Are cup competitions sort of held in high regard compared to the league, or as a fan, would you prefer to see your side do well in the league?
I mean, competitions are still good, though. I mean, since Wigan won it in 2013, it hasn't been like that important. And even despite Arsenal winning it despite Arsenal winning the FA Cup in 3 of the last 4 seasons, it hasn't been that well. What was that?
That was a whistle. That is our full-time whistle. But carry on. Finish off your point, and then we're done.
Yeah, it hasn't been of that much regard, because when Arsenal have won the FA Cup, it's been like it's just another trophy. It's not that important. But when another team wins it, it's like oh yes, the FA Cup is an important trophy again.
Well, there we go. Good points there. Oh my word. Try not to choke there. Good points there, and thank you very much for that essay. So as you just heard, that was the full-time whistle is blown. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're listening in. Certainly do please give us your views on whether you think big sides are seriously taking the League Cup series. Be sure to check out the various pieces of content we have across our site, as well as our football predictor at halftimecuppa.com. Finally, a quick shout out to today's panelist, Ese Agboaye. How can we follow you on social media, Ese?
Follow me on my Twitter at A96OAYE.
Brilliant stuff. And I'm on Twitter at DannyCook1996. The music, the intro, and everything else in the background you may have heard, that's a new piece of audio we've received from a very talented artist, a very good friend of mine as well. And his sort of links are in the description below. Lewis C Music. Go and check him out. Some fantastic tunes there. Of course, I've been your host, Danny Cook, and you've been listening to the Halftime Podcast. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, Ese.